guys, welcome back to GRS University. I'm Molly Lisea, and we are going into episode 2 of our Graver series. Sure. Last time we talked about Glen steel and carbide and Graver material. This time we're going to talk about the profile, the shapes, the sizes, and what they're used for. Hopefully it'll help you narrow down what Graver you need. Let's go. Last video, we talked about Glen steel versus C-Max. Now, we're going to dive into the wealth of options available to you. But before we talk about all the different profiles and what they're used for, I want you to know that most of these come in both options of Glen steel and C-Max. They also come in a variety such as traditional gravers versus new traditional, which is already notched and ready to go into your QC tool holder for the pneumatic handpiece. And even more updated, made out of round stock with flats ground for your set screws so that you can just lock it into the tool holder and go. All of those options are available. So before you think about profiles, you're gonna wanna think about what material you'll want and then go from there, okay? Now let's get down to the profiles. We're gonna start with lengths, right? Come exactly as they are. Square stock, round stock. There's different sizes of round stock. This is the 1.8. There's also the 3/32, there's the 1/8, so different sizes there. 1.8 is smaller, so it's gonna be faster to sharpen, but it's also gonna be easier to flex it and snap it. So if you have something a little bit more hefty, that's gonna hold up a little bit better if you accidentally drop your tool like me, because I'm a Butterfingers. Square stock, exactly like it is. You can make a really quick 90-degree graver out of this. It's a good option for somebody who's just starting off on sharpening. Go with the square. Moving on from that, we have the V-points. Let me find my model so I can show you a little bit easier what I'm talking about. This profile is exactly what it says. It is a V-point. This comes in a variety of sizes as well, or geometries. So a 120 V-point is gonna be a lot fatter and wider. You're gonna have more variance in your lines if you dip a little bit. You also have a 60, which is a really skinny V. Gonna be a lot narrower of a line. It's also gonna be easier to control as far as your line variance, okay? We have those available already pre-sharpened to those geometries. So we have a 60, a 75, a 105, and a 120. Let me show you real quick the difference between the 120 and the 60. Okay, so these are already set at those geometries, but they are not ready to cut, okay? You're gonna wanna touch up the face, and you have to put a heel on these. They do not have a heel, just the geometry, okay, you guys? We get that question a lot. You're gonna have to do a little bit of sharpening on these. V-points are really good for general engraving. They can do lines, they can do lettering, they can do shading, they can do background removal. Really good overall tool, okay? We're gonna bump over to the next style, which is kind of similar, and that's a knife graver, okay? This is a lot like the V-point, but it's really skinny. It's gonna break a little bit easier, so you're not gonna wanna do curved lines with this. This is really good for hair thin lines, straight lines. You can do a little bit of background texturing with this. It's also really good for jewelers to shave a little bit of material from behind stones. Really narrow profile. Similar to those, you would have the onglet. This is a lot like a V-point, but instead of a straight profile down to the point, has a little bit of a curve, right? Good for setting stones. It's good for line engraving. It is good for borders, for inlay work. Some people will make left or right dominant onglets. We actually have a video over how to sharpen those with Ben Bentfelsen. If you go to season 2 of our GRSU videos, you can find that, okay? Let's move on to round gravers. Also good for jewelry and engravers, okay? This is a stepped round. Then you also have what's called a tapered round. So why this is good for stone setters and jewelry is because you can raise little beads over your stone with these. It also creates a different kind of cut. So with the V-point, you would catch a little bit of ink and dirt down in that very bottom point. This is rounded, so it's gonna reflect light a little bit differently. People use this for block lettering, for engraving on uneven surfaces. Diane does some really pretty flare cutting with these. If you check out her work, it's really good for doing sculpting as well. So it's gonna create a little bit of a different light cutting with a round graver. A reflection, that's what I was looking for. All right, moving on, let's go to the flats. Flat gravers are exactly what they say too. They're flat. You have the option between a tapered flat, which is gonna come down like this, or a parallel flat, which is exactly what this is. It's gonna have straight sides. Parallel flats are really good for inlay work because it creates the perfect channel. Flats are also really good for background removal. You can remove a lot of material. These come in a variety of sizes, so you can have a flat that's really fat versus really thin, depending on your needs. You can do border work with these, you can sculpt, you can do some really pretty, bright, luminesque work, get a really good polish on this, and you'll see this a lot on like belt buckles or for decorative stone setting. That's what this flat is gonna do for you guys, okay? Lettering, you can use that for that too. This one looks a lot like a flat, but it is a liner. Liners have a series of grooves cut into them. So this would be used to create multiple shade lines at once. It's gonna be perfectly evenly spaced. And you can even dictate when you look at the size of your liner, how many lines you have on it, okay? So you could have 6 versus 8, depending on your needs. These are also known for Florentine finish. It's gonna create a lot of lines. You can do really pretty texturing with this. That's what this guy's for. You might also notice that it comes in options such as the curved liner or the stepped liner. This is just to allow you a little bit more clearance if you find that you need that, okay? Some other funny looking ones are these guys. Once again, it's a little curved and it's really curved. This one's called our serpentine. These are used for inside ring engraving, okay? So it's gonna allow you the clearance to get around the edge of that ring and get into the middle of that, okay? That's what these guys are for. Pretty tricky. Start with some of these guys before you jump to these, okay? We also offer things like the tapered point. This is used for stippling. Some people will even have started using these to make really micro gravers. So Sandy Popovic, or Ernest, if you want to go by his formal name, he makes micro gravers, micro 120s out of these, which is really nice for getting into tight spots. We also offer beading tools, which make little round circles. You can do background finishes with that. You can use them to raise beads over stones. I think I covered it all, you guys. I guess the best way to approach this would be to first decide what material your graver needs to be, as far as what material you're cutting into, and then move on to what type of work you want to do. If you want to do fat cuts that are going to be really bright and sparkly, or if you just need something really skinny to get into those tight spots, that's when you would move on to what kind of profile you need on your graver. If you have any questions, we're always here to help. Please feel free to call any of us here at Glendo, or we also have Ask a Master. You can call that landline as well. Hope it helps. Yeah, let's go. Go grave. Choose a graver, take it with you. You guys, I hope that you feel a little bit better about which graver you will need for your work. Hopefully that cleared up all the questions. And again, if you need help, feel free to ask. We're more than happy to help. This week's suggested Instagram user is Headland Knives. Anders Headland is a knife engraver, and he has some beautiful work on his page. Go check him out. That's all I got on that one, except for if you want to be a suggested Instagram user, you need to tag us at GRS Tools on your next post. Then like us. You guys already know the drill. We've talked about this several times. I wish you would just do it. And then we can stop talking about it. Unless you're new, then I need to reiterate it. Like us on all the social media. Till next time.